Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, Ranking Member Shabbat. I think this is a very important hearing. You know, the Farm Bill used to be the FFA, the Food and Fiber for America Bill, and now it's more realistically called the FFFA, Food, Fiber, and Fuels for America. And I think that's a very significant change because a lot of us really saw the food and fiber as part of the benign things that showed up on our tables every day. We didn't really give it a lot of thought. But now that we've injected the fuel component, we've got a lot more volatility and a lot of enthusiasm for small business owners. I want to focus more on something that doesn't get as much attention as the fuel component, and that's the ag-based chemical and industrial products component of where we go with next generation innovation from some of the things we've been talking about. And Mr. Schwiebert, I grew up in the small town of Brooklyn, Iowa. I think you've got some distant relatives living there.
There are Schwiebert's fans.
Very familiar with the name. Congressman English, I think I can say in fairly good confidence, I am the only member sitting up here who is a member of a rural electric cooperative. My brother worked for an REC, and during the ice storms of this spring, when we had 350,000 people in Iowa without power, your members and the people who work for those cooperatives did outstanding work. But to give you some sense of what I'd like the panel to talk about, I spent last week on a renewable energy tour of my district. I went to the U.S. bioenergy ethanol plant that's being built right now near Dyersville, Iowa. I toured the Hawkeye Renewables ethanol plant near Fairbank, which has been up and running and doing great things. And then I got a much different perspective by touring the ADM facility in Clinton, Iowa. And that's where they are building the first PHA plant in the country that's going to use wet starch from a wet corn mill to make natural plastics that are biodegradable, environmentally sound, and also will give rise to a whole new generation of small business opportunity to compete with petroleum-based plastics. I also have a small utility in my district that came up with an innovation to replace lubricants in electric generators that used to be contaminated with PCBs with a soy-based biodiesel type of lubricant. So there's a lot of exciting things going on that don't get the attention that renewable fuels do, and I'd like all of you to comment on what you see your members doing in the next 5 years to benefit us.
Well, I think that's exactly right, and what you're talking about is using that in the transformers with the oil from soybeans. That's something that's certainly being explored and looked at now. I know the Rural Utilities Service is giving that a look as well as to whether we get in there. I think there are a few technical issues that still remain to be dealt with on that, but that makes a lot of sense in moving in that direction. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. You know, if we can start laying this thing out and get a plan as to where we're going instead of this kind of skipping around haphazard, a little here, a little there, and focus our resources and our attention. And that's what I find so exciting about the fact that we've got so many of our members who want to come together and invest in one great big national entity to produce renewable electricity for not just for the local area, but for the country. And to really go into this on the basis that it is an effort to in effect provide that kind of renewable power that this country needs. And it fits right in, I know, with what many of the farm organizations have been trying to do, many of our farmers trying to do, and every one of them, as you well know, those are all local folks that own those electric cooperatives. And if they have the chance to do that, it also has an opportunity to bring some revenue to the people back home if the Congress will give us that chance. If they'll give us that chance. We've got to tweak the laws, make a few adjustments here to make that kind of a plan and to move that forward. But it's also a way in which we can minimize those rate increases. They're going to go up, but we want to minimize that and have as little impact on this economy and certainly on small business and people living in rural America as we can.
Thank you, Congressman, for that question, because I think it sort of defines rural America. There's a lot of innovation and creativity out there. It's often having the programs and the funding and the incentives to take part in it. And, you know, as we do this Farm Bill, one of the titles I know Mr. English is very familiar with in his days in the House Ag Committee that often gets overlooked and shortchanged is research into technology and development. You know, corn de-icer, for example, you can use that on the roads. You can use it in the airport runways. Those type of products don't just happen. It takes some some serious research. And federal research dollars usually are the first cut. You look at any budget reconciliation package that's gone through this Congress, and those are easier because the constituency often is in the future, not in the present. And I think we really have to focus on that in this farm bill, especially with the limited dollars there.
Well, in Oregon, one of the things we got going right now is the Treasure Valley Renewable Energy, and what it's doing basically is taking barley and wheat, and it's just under process right now. And the byproduct's actually worth more than the ethanol that's produced. And they're using byproduct as an edible for like these food bars and stuff. So that's a perfect opportunity where the byproduct's actually what you're after. Another thing that's been happening is with the use of canola meal and organic production of canola, and using the canola oil as organic canola oil for edible uses. So there's a lot of things being stemmed here with all this discussion going on. The other thing that I'd like to hit on is, a molecule is a molecule. And with that being said, anything that's oil-based can also come from a plant. So we just hit the tip of the iceberg of what can really happen. And with the ingenuity out in the countryside and the work ethic that's out there, I think you'll see a lot of the things that you're seeing at your home. And we've only just touched the tip. It's going to be a lot about ethanol, but it's going to be a lot about the things we're going to make from the byproduct. So I got to agree with you.
Thank you for that question as well. Some examples you could see right in front of us is you can take polylactic acid, which is derived from cornstarch, make drinking glasses as clear as this, use those, put those in a compost pile, they degrade to carbon dioxide and return to the soil to grow corn again. You can use it to make the carpet on this floor, even the clothes that you and I wear. What we're seeing today with fuel-grade alcohol is the first generation of uses of renewable products, in this case corn, wheat, soybeans, other products as well, to launch us down a road of replacing our complete dependence on petroleum-based industrial building components to those from bio-based products, and kind of going from a petroleum to a carbohydrate-based economy. You've heard perhaps that stated as well. So we're on the first generation of that. The technological advances, the advances in biotechnology are certainly driving us down that road rather quickly. Sometimes it's almost surprising to me how rapidly that's happening. But don't see today as we've reached the goal and we can sit back and rest on those laurels. It's just but barely begun. So I think the future is very bright. I think it positions rural American agriculture to certainly be not just a contributor of food and fiber, but also a strategic national advantage in providing energy and also the basic components for our industrial processes.